I've been selling Pokemon cards as a hobby for a couple months now, and I want to share a little bit about the expectations of getting started as a card seller. I sell on Card Market, but I think it'll be roughly the same experience on every platform. So the first question that my friends typically ask me when I tell them that I'm doing this is either how many kind of sales to expect or how much money will I make? And these kind of go hand in hand, of course. So when I look at the last 2 months, on average, I had around 400 to 500 singles listed and about 30 to 40 slabs. And I think every month I approximately sold 15 to 20% of my inventory. So in September, I sold 113 items in 39 sales. So when you look at this number, that was just under 60 euros average per order. And I would say that my typical order is like 20 or 30 bucks, but when you sell a slab, it's a lot bigger, so it really pushes up the average. And then for August, I did 31 sales, which consisted of 74 items, and every sale averaged around 85 euros. So I sold a couple more slabs basically in August, which accounts for much of that increased average. So I think if you price things right, then that's something to go by, right? So if you put up 1,000 cards, then I think you can expect to sell like 200 of them every month, or between 150 and 200. And if it's way below that, then either you're priced wrong, or maybe you're selling a very, very niche product. Or obviously, if you only have extremely expensive slabs, then it might take longer to sell these things because there's just less buyers for them. Another question that I get a lot is how quick do I get paid? Um, but this is basically near instant. So on Card Market, whenever you've done a good amount of sales, you can withdraw money from the platform or use it to buy new stuff, obviously. But I think if you're doing this to make money, then you should be withdrawing more than spending. Um, and there's only one option. You withdraw it to your kind of listed to the bank account that's listed on your account information. And they say it takes up to 5 business days, but my experience most of the time has been like 2 business days. So it's really fast and it's really easy. So no complaints there. The last topic I think that's good to manage your own expectations on is what you will be spending most of your time on when you start doing this. Because for me, the looking which cards I want to sell, listing them, and packaging them up and sending them off, that's actually kind of the fun part. But unfortunately, it's not where most of my time goes. So I would say that by far the most time consuming um, aspect of this hobby or job, if you will, is conflict resolution. And I mean it in the broadest sense. So maybe a buyer isn't happy with the quality of the product, or they don't agree with how you graded it, or the it got lost in the post, or maybe you're suspected you're getting scammed, or you're dealing with a scammer somehow. And it's all these kind of things that happen outside of what you want the process to be like that will take up the vast majority of your time. Like right now, I'm chasing a post office issue, and this is like a 15 euro package that got lost supposedly, and it just means you're on the phone a couple times a week and chasing this thing, and I'm making no money on this package as it stands. Um, but not only is it causing you mental load because you're having to chase this and you have to make like you know, gut decisions on if people are telling the truth or not, or if they have a reliable story, and then how much time you're going to put into resolving, or if you're just going to refund them. Uh, yeah, by far the most annoying part of the process. So you be aware of this, getting into it, that these things will inevitably happen. I think 1 in 25 or so sales, I would say there's some kind of conflict that arises. So if you do 500 sales, you're gonna have 20 headaches to deal with, basically. Um, and yeah, they just cause the most frustration or stress, or they consume the most time. So be willing to do that if you entered into the space. The second thing I think that takes up most of the time is just requests from potential buyers. So these are requests for pictures or people starting conversations in order to negotiate. Um, Basically, any kind of interaction that could potentially lead to a sale, but right now it's just asking stuff from you. And picture requests, to begin with, in my experience, they do not drive sales for near mint cards. Um, Whenever you've ripped something or you're posting really fresh cards, the only people that are asking for pictures typically are looking for gradable copies, and a lot of them, not all of them, will come with very kind of large or even entitled requests where they're like, okay, can you take pictures of this card in the dark room with a dark background and maybe pictures of the front and at an angle and every corner and every edge. And then I check which card they're talking about, and it's like an €8 alternate rare or something, right? And it's just like, come on, dude. On expensive cards, I do think it's good form to provide a picture. So if people ask nicely, I'll typically always take pictures for them, especially if a card is like 30, 40, €50 or maybe even up. Then I think it's good form to show them a picture because it also prevents issues down the line, right? So if they're happy with what they're going to be getting, or maybe there's a small imperfection and they've seen it and they've agreed that it doesn't bother them, then that also sets you up for much smoother handling of this order. Because if they come to that conclusion later, then you need to process a refund and a return. So I think it's best to be strict with your own grading, and also be lenient in giving out pictures for more expensive cards. But just know that in my experience, providing these pictures to people that ask for them, it rarely drives any sales. For cards that aren't near mint, so maybe it's like vintage stuff or whatever, then it's very common to get these requests, and I think it's always people that are genuinely interested. So they just want to see if they agree with, you call it good condition or lightly played. Do I agree with that? And then if they do, they typically buy the card because they're just interested in completing a master set, or these kind of things, checking if it's worth it to them as a binder copy. And I have very good experiences with these kind of requests leading to actual sales. Yeah, with regards to negotiations, I'm typically happy to negotiate if people buy more than one card at once or more than one slab at once, but I wouldn't overdo it. Like, you don't want to list too expensive with the idea, then I'll just negotiate when people come to me, because they won't come to you because you're listed at too much of an upcharge. I think just be very sharp on your listing prices. And then if they come to you for further discount, just look if you have legitimate space to give them a discount for the quantity of stuff that they're getting. And if you don't, then it's fine too. Just say, hey, I'm already the lowest on everything, and I just don't have that much room, or I can give you a little bit off, just as a gesture. But yeah, I've the times that I've given discounts, I was always happy to give them because I had little bit of room on these items, perhaps. But I've also many times said, sorry, I just don't have the room on this. And it didn't deter these people. Like, I think it's fair. They're just going to see if there's a little bit of wiggle room on your end. But if there isn't, then in many of those cases, I was the cheapest anyway. So it still just led to a sale and it wasn't a big issue. So yeah, negotiating is fine, but I would advise mainly to just list stuff better. And if it becomes a very dragged out negotiation, so sometimes you have people that are endlessly bitching about the last euro, don't get dragged into those. Because in my experience, in the end, they always end up flaking anyway, and they've just wasted so much of your time. So yeah, and then I think the most time consuming thing is the normal process, right? Just looking at your orders, picking your cards out, packaging them up nicely, shipping them. But yeah, that's the bread and butter of the process. And for me, that's the fun part as well. But it does take up a little bit of time. But I typically get most of my orders over the weekend. So let's say I get 20 in a week, then I'll probably get 12 or so over the weekend, and then 2 orders on most weekdays. Hopefully, this gives you a little insight into what it's like to do this as a hobby or side hustle. And perhaps it can help with your decision making around whether you want to get into this. So, yeah, hope it helped, and have a good one.